Greetings and welcome to what I think is the 31st or 32nd episode of Morrowind Modding Interviews. And with me today is RubberMan, perhaps best known for his work on the Dwemer Rebirth project, but he's also worked on a number of other, small mods like the Dwemer Rebirth project, also the Dwemer Rebirth project, and of course, the Dwemer Rebirth project. So first things first, thanks for agreeing to do this interview with me today.
No problem, mate.
And just starting out with some of our, basic intro questions. When did you first start playing Morrowind and the Elder Scrolls in general?
Oh, that'd be round about when it first came out, 2003-ish. I saw my son playing it. We used to have computers next to each other in our computer room, and I saw him playing it while I was working away online, and I thought, yeah, I'm having a go at that. He got bored of it, and I took it over and started playing and messing about with it, and then we found the construction set, and together we started modding. Really, we'd already been modding together for a while, Age of Kings and Half-Life, believe it or not, and we made our first house, I think it was, from the tutorial. It was terrible.
Oh wow, it sounds like there wasn't much of a delay between when you started Morrowind and when you started modding.
Ooh, I'd say about 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think that might be a new record, though, I don't know, some of the modders around here have, started modding right away. I think Zinni didn't even play the game.
Well, I could have possibly started modding without playing the game, because I'd watched him play it. But I just wanted to run around and just get a feel for it and see what the score was, and I liked it. Simple as that.
Oh yeah, and speaking of, what was your first mod, and how did you get the idea for it? Was it sort of a, cooperative project between you and your son?
Actually, it was, yeah. He had the idea for it, and amazingly, the idea was pretty much the same idea as the story for Oblivion. And it was a massive, massive island. Which I made, and he did some interiors and this, that, and the other. I mean, at the time he was only like 13, so he was at school and that. He was coming home and he was doing interiors, and he has a bit of OCD, so it was great for me because I can't be bothered putting knives and forks straight and things like that. It just drive me crazy. And it was a really good story, and that was. 2003, 2004. It took us a good 6 months to do this, and then Oblivion really its ugly head at some point, and we decided not to go any further.
Oh, so did that? Did you never release that then?
No, actually, we was going to. I was going to a few years later, and unfortunately, it was on a dead hard drive, along with a lot of other things that went missing as well.
Oh, yeah, that happens to the best of modders. I mean, after all, that's what happened to the doomed Argonia project.
I think it happens to, like you say, I think it happens to everybody at some point. I mean, especially back then, the hard drives 20 years ago wasn't like they are now. The decent SSD ones and all the rest of it. It was just some hard drive that you go, every time you accessed it, and eventually it just stopped going,
Oh, yeah, and, well, even the hard drives of today have a moderately high failure rate. Of course, I've got an external drive that failed like a year ago.
Well, I tend to put a lot of things on Dropbox now. I mean, like the models I'm doing at the moment, I've got a full scene of them with all the models of Calvera on them, and Dwemer Rebirth, and they're all on Dropbox. So I just zip them up, upload them to Dropbox. Anything happens to this, I've still got them. Years ago, to upload them anywhere would have took forever, and basically I just couldn't be bothered.
Oh, yeah, online services like Dropbox are extremely useful. I mean, the $10 fee I pay for, pretty much unlimited Dropbox space is definitely worth it just to have that security.
Well, I have unlimited cloud space with our ISP, and I've never ever even logged into it. Dropbox seems to do everything I want. And if I've got a model that I particularly want, another sneaky way to do it is actually release it on Nexus.
Oh yeah, that's certainly another way of doing it, and, well, I guess we're kind of becoming a Dropbox advertisement. I mean, they're not even sponsoring this video. So I guess we should move on to our next question here. What draws you to modding video games?
Well, Dropbox, really. No. Well, obviously, I've never, like I said earlier to you when we were chatting, I've never actually owned a television. Always been a computer addict or a bookworm. And modding just keeps me out of trouble. And by trouble, I mean the pub. If it wasn't modding and didn't own a television, you know, there's only so much the wife can take. And you're out and you're getting into trouble, and I don't know, it's just one of them things.
Oh yes, and at least, you know, it's something constructive and creative that, you know, flexes your muscles a bit.
Yeah, if I had any. It's just, I suppose it gives you a small sense of purpose as well, doesn't it? You know, it makes you feel good when you release something, and people like it. It makes you feel like you've done something useful.
Would you say it gives you a sense of pride and accomplishment?
Yeah, that sort of thing. You know, it makes you feel. When somebody likes something that you do, I just feel like a Samaritan actually when I'm modding. There you go.
Oh yeah, I think that is, you know, one of the big draws of modding. You know, it's just, you know, getting that occasional positive feedback on something you've built.
Well, I'm a bit more extrovert than most of the modders out there, so I'm a bit more vocal with what I do. So I do get quite a lot of feedback because I push it down your throat until you give it me. Because I want to hear it. I want to know what I'm doing is worth doing, or whether I should just stop and move on. You know.
Oh yeah, and that is a problem because a lot of our modders are kind of introverts. A lot of us don't take the time that we should to leave feedback on the mods we play. Unfortunately, I know that's been a problem with me recently.
I've been quite lucky. The wife is also an avid Morrowind player, so I've got my own personal playtester. Also on my Discord, I do get volunteers of people to playtest things. So it's not only feedback; I can get a criticism, I can get suggestions. Whereas if you're not very vocal and you don't ask for these things, well, simply if you don't ask, you're never going to get it.
Oh yes, that is true, and I remember, you know, coming back to mods that I had played a while ago, or I had developed a while ago, and, you know, find a bug that no one had reported for some unapparent reason.
Yeah, that's it. A lot of people either skip them or, you know, give up or try and fix them themselves. Anything but actually say to the author, I found this, mate. Can you sort it out? They just don't bother. But if you ask them while you're developing it, you know, you've got a chance of catching it.
Oh yeah, that is true, and it is a problem that I've run into a bit. I sometimes don't always notify authors of the bugs that I find, because I playtest so many mods, it would take, you know, like an entire week to just get through all the bug reports.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, not everybody wants to playtest. Not everyone wants to play something that they might get into just to stop and have to restart it and tell you that there's a problem with it. So, you know, it's a case of just click uninstall and we'll forget that one. It was alright while it lasted, but found this bug, now I won't play it.
Oh yeah, and that reminds me of a lot of those Order Quest mods, you know, from like 2004 to 2007. There were some pretty good ones, but a lot of them, you know, they had major bugs before you got to the end of them, and they most of the time they just, you know, CTD, or there was no way to finish the quest or something. And it's like, yeah, it was a lot of fun, but oh well, that's that.
Yeah, it's a bit depressing. I've never really been big into quest mods. I mean, my favourite one is a heavy quest mod, but the other quest mods I've never really been into because of that. Because, like you say, half the time it's conflicts. To be honest, you get a lot of players and they'll say, "Oh, your mod doesn't work. It doesn't do such a thing," and I'll say, well, what have you got installed? And then they have like 70 mods installed with it. Some of them you've never heard of, never seen before, and there are all these conflicts going on. And you're saying, well, you know, get rid of those and try it on its own and see if it works. Usually it does.
Oh yes, in a community as old as ours, we have so many mods out there that compatibility, absolute maximum compatibility, is somewhat difficult to achieve realistically for content mods. I mean, we have, I think it's about close to 24,000 mods now. Inevitably, you're going to conflict with something, probably.
Yeah, here's where I get into that. I use Rebirth to test my conflicts because I find if it works with Rebirth, it will usually work with a lot of other mods because Rebirth has been tested so much for conflict. If I make it not conflict with Rebirth, then it'll work.
Oh yeah, that's true, except for, the occasional mod. I mean, I actually have a few mods that do conflict with Rebirth, so that's not really a guarantee so much.
No, it's not. But it's which ones do conflict with Rebirth, and I'll know how to fix them on my conflicts.
That makes sense.
It's just a case of using somebody else's time and effort and experience to assist you with your own stuff. It's just a time saver.
Oh yes, it definitely sounds like it. And going on to some of our more specific questions, specifically, hammering you on Dwemer Rebirth, since, as you joked about on Discord, most of these questions do involve Dwemer Rebirth to some extent here. The Dwemer Rebirth project is a pretty ambitious, endeavor, overhauling all the Dwemer ruins and Morrowind and all that. So I'm kind of curious, what motivated you to take on such a massive project?
The modding marathon, really. That was it, because when the Dwemer challenge came up, and I messed about in the construction set, I never really messed about with the vanilla Dwemer stuff. And I realised there was about like 10 pieces and 10 assets or whatever to work with. And that was just rubbish. And I always hated the ruins. I hated them. I hated the orange colour. I hated the just a ugly things they are. It had to be changed. Something had to go in there. And after playing Skyrim, their ruins were so much better. So much better. I'm not saying the ruins are better. I'm not saying Skyrim's better. I'm saying the ambience of Skyrim's ruins were much better than Morrowind.
Oh yeah, you do kind of have to be careful when you, shout, Skyrim is better in this community, because, they will, call you a heretic and drive you out with pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, that's why I tried to make a recovery on that one before I got stoned to death in Discord, so yeah. No, Skyrim's awful. No, I couldn't stand it.
Yeah, I will say, we talked about this a bit on our Dungeon Modders podcast, but yeah, the dungeons of Skyrim, atmospherically and from a design perspective, were just a lot better than their Morrowind counterparts.
Yeah, everything. It was just the sounds, the lighting, the colour. I like the idea of the fact that you use stone. I have no idea what's going on in the Morrowind Dwemer things. That's all I'm going to say. No idea at all. I don't know where they come up with that. Somebody must have been sat in a room and just thought, oh, here's a scribble I did while I was on the toilet. Let's make this.
Oh, so wait, you have a problem with, the original art design for the Dwemer Morrowind? I mean, those Dwemer towers, are pretty iconic.
I think they're pretty ugly, really. I don't like them at all, and a lot of the stuff, just doesn't work for me. I just don't like it.
Oh, well, that is surprising to hear. Are you planning to also update and overhaul the exteriors then?
I've never thought about the exteriors. The exteriors would be much easier than the interiors. Why did you do that to me? Now you've made me think about it. I might think about it. I don't know now. That was cruel.
Oh, well, have I accidentally added another 5-year delay on the release to Dwemer Rebirth?
No, not at all. Not at all. I know exactly when it's going to be finished, so that's not a problem.
Oh, well, just adding to your workload then, I guess.
Yeah, it'd just be something else to look at and think about. I mean, a friend of mine did suggest it about 3 years ago. And I think he ended up doing an overall of them, just made them look a bit prettier, really.
Oh yeah, I think there have been a few texture places out there. Some of the really crazy ones, there's a techno text to replace it for the Dwemer Towers and all that, and which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've seen some of them. I've not downloaded all of them. Out of all the people who've messed with the Dwemer, Dark Knight is the only one I've really liked.
Oh yes, and of course, Dark Knight's Great Dwemer Ruins is probably the best known Dwemer ruin overhaul until, the Dwemer Rebirth project.
I've never seen the Greater Dwemer Ruins. I've never downloaded it, so I've never seen anything of it, YouTube or anything.
Oh, good heavens. I don't know how you've accomplished that. It's a really popular mod.
I know, but I don't have a lot of the really popular mods, believe it or not. I just don't play it as much as people would expect. I don't play the game, really. Very rarely. Now and again I think I'll play Morrowind, and I'll spend a week playing it, and then I'll see things I want to change, and that's it, I stop playing.
Yeah, I really don't even know why I ask people if they play Morrowind anymore. These interviews always end the same. It's like, oh no, I'm mostly mod, I don't play Morrowind. Every single time we do these interviews, same response.
Yeah, well, I've been telling friends for a long time now. It's like, will you goddamn play the game, because you're not. He's not played it for 10 years, I don't think, maybe more. He just doesn't bother, and yet he's doing Rebirth all the time. So how can you do that without at least playing it? He doesn't even run around it after he's made a change.
Oh yes, I mean, Morrowind Rebirth is a pretty impressive project, just from the fact that it's been worked on for so long.
Yeah, I remember the first time he mentioned starting it on the old forums, if anybody ever remembers those. And I was like, yeah, cool idea that, mate. Go for it. And I didn't actually think he would still be doing it now, years and years later.
Oh yeah, I remember when it was called the New Cities Project, I thought it was a pretty interesting concept, for overhauling the cities. I didn't really anticipate that it would become this whole gigantic Morrowind Rebirth thing that it is now.
Yeah, it's really... I speak to him pretty much every other day. And I have done for quite some time, and it's nice to see he's always got another plan. He's always got something else he wants to do and wants to change, and that's great.
Oh yes, that does make it a bit difficult for those of us who make other mods who want to keep our mods compatible with Morrowind Rebirth. I've had a few cases where my mods started out as compatible, but then Transmaster changed something, and now they're not compatible.
I had that bit with when I was doing House of Drass. I said, look, I want to expand on this on a later date and fix any cock-ups. So I'm just going to do it really quick, because I've only got a couple of weeks to do an entire faction mod on my own. I said, so I'm just going to do it as quick as I can and as good as I can. I said, but I want it to be compatible with Rebirth. Now I want it to stay compatible with Rebirth. I said, so see this bit of land here, these two cells, they're mine. You don't touch them ever. So he cleared them all out of the trees and rocks, and as far as I know, they're still mine. So I can expand on Strasser eventually, which I think I will be doing.
Oh yes, maybe some more modders should strong-arm Transmaster to make sure that he doesn't change certain cells.
It depends if you can bribe him. I can, because I do supply quite a few assets for him, and I'm always there if he gets stuck on a script or anything like that. Because he just doesn't bother. He doesn't want to learn doing anything like that. He likes messing about with his texturing and his UV mapping and the construction set. After that, he doesn't really want to do anything. He doesn't want to learn. So I think he's quite happy having me in the background just to say, will you do this? Or can you do this when you get a minute? That sort of thing.
Oh yes, that is something I wanted to ask you. Obviously you're pretty active on Morrowind Rebirth Discord. I mean, have you been, providing a lot of the materials for the project over the past year or two?
I supplied quite. If you look at he puts it all on ModDB. I can't even remember what I've supplied now. It's just been random meshes. I mean, I replaced all the models for the common furniture not so long ago for him, and made some display cases. I just made some bellows, which was to replace the original vanilla bellows. That was the latest thing he asked me to do. That's it. He just comes on and says, "I want to replace these. I don't like them. Can you make me some new ones?" So I end up saying, "Yep, get me a picture, and I'll try and make them to that picture." And that's how it's worked.
Yeah, well, it really sounds like all these various projects are really just working you to death over there. I mean, Nomi mentioned that, of course, that you were helping out with Project Tamriel and Tamriel Built, doing asset creation, and you're doing this for Morrowind Rebirth, and of course you got Dwemer Rebirth, and all these other things that you're working on, like the Caldera mod. I don't know how you find time for it all.
Staying up late, but then again, I've been modelling for over 20 years, and as I say, for me to model something that I've seen people take 2 or 3 days, it might take me 15, 20 minutes. So I don't find it a big deal.
Now, wow, I'm really surprised how you can do it that quickly. And 20 years? I mean, was this something that you were doing professionally at one point in time, or was it just a hobby?
I actually use it. I used it in my job, and I still use it now. Just design things. I mean, I'm a builder now. I wasn't always a builder. But using CAD/CAM sort of stuff was something I always did. It just progressed from there, really. And then I did a lot of models for Half-Life in the early days, and Sims. I did over 3,000 models for Sims 2. That was mostly requests, etc.
Oh, wow, that is, well, quite a lot of work, really. I mean, good heavens, how many models have you made over the years? Have you made just 3,000 for the Sims?
Oh, it's in the tens of thousands. It's not hundreds. It's definitely in the tens of thousands.
Ah, jeez, and I thought Project Outlander of London Rook was really impressive, but I don't even think that was 1,000 or 1,200.
Well, there's so far I've got 600 in Dwemer Rebirth, and there's a good 200 in the Caldera at the moment, but I'm expecting that to triple at least.
Oh gosh, that is just a lot, and a lot compared to obviously the original Dwemer Rebirth tile set. I mean, the original vanilla tile set and assets, because I don't think there were 100 Dwemer models in vanilla Morrowind, let alone 600.
I've got it here somewhere. I think there was 12.
12? Oh my.
Yep, 12. That's the furniture and pipes. I think that's all it was. 12 or 13. I've written down somewhere. I can't find it, but I know it was a very tiny amount, and that's one of the reasons when the MMM was out and you said, "Oh, we've got a Dwemer challenge." It's like, well, they haven't got anything. What can you do with this? All the rooms are going to look the same. That we're going to use the same 3 things or whatever, and pipes. And that was it, really. And the pipes only had 1, 2, 3, 4 options on the pipes. What can I say?
So, you turned a tile set that had 12 pieces into a 600-piece, just massive, gargantuan amount of material, and this all started as the Dwemer Challenge in last year's Morrowind Modding Madness?
Yep. All of it. I did about 100 for that originally. I didn't put 100 into it. So I didn't like half of them. I was just doing them really, really quick because of the time limit. I took a large job on in the middle of it. After House of Dras, I took a job on that was keeping me working 8-10 hours a day, and then I was coming home, and by the time I'd had a bath and sat down, I didn't have much time left to carry on. That's why I didn't do one of the challenges. I just didn't have the time, and nobody helped, so I was a bit sad.
Oh yes, but even so, I mean, I got to say that you have just an amazing level of productivity for these ambitious projects. I mean, Rise of House of Dras was pretty impressive for a basically one-man effort. I mean, that was an entire faction. Then you had Deepwatch Abyss, and now the Dwemer Rebirth project and the new Caldera mod. It just seems like you're just batting out these massive mods just one after another.
They don't start off massive. It starts off as a small idea, and then Bert said that to me the other day. Back up Bert, he said, "Have you ever noticed that your mods are always end up huge?" They start off with a little idea, and then they end up like epic, it's massive things. Because I'll make something, a room it might be, just a room, and I'll run around the room and think, it needs one of them, so I'll go and make it, and I'll put it in, and then it needs one of them as well to go on that, and it just snowballs from there.
Oh yes, it sounds like a feature creep at its finest.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. I mean, I wish I had the time to spend a lot longer on each model. But if I did that, it'd be 2090 release for everything.
And, I just have to say that the Deepwatch Abyss, I just really loved that mod. I mean, it was such a amazingly atmospheric and very Skyrim-style dungeon. Obviously, your inspiration with Blackreach really turned out well, I think.
Yeah, it was completely 100% Blackreach inspired because, as I say, I didn't have the time, and I wanted to add something better than just the dungeon. I wanted to just go somewhere to make it more interesting. And as I say, I was working, so I thought, I'll just throw a Blackreach in there. Well, it looked okay, but it was a bit heavy on the poly count, unfortunately. I could have done a better job with it. I wish I had now, and may do in the future.
Oh yeah, I've been meaning to ask, do you plan to update it and merge it into, part of the Dwemer Rebirth project?
I do indeed. It will feature in there. I've been a little more cloak and dagger with it than I was before. It was putting too much pressure on me because I was actually saying, next ruin is going to be released on such a date, and I hadn't even figured out which ruin it was going to be. So I gave myself a time limit and tried to stick to it, and I thought, no, I better not do that. I'm just going to keep it quiet from now on.
Speaking of, any idea when the next release will be for the Dwemer Rebirth project?
Yes, I do.
And you're not going to share it?
No, I'm not.
Well, okay then. I guess we'll just leave everyone hanging.
Yeah, best thing to do. No, like I said, I'm not going to put myself under pressure by saying it's going to be such and such a date, blah, blah, blah. When I did Bethemez, I had two major problems. I'd said, I'm going to release it on such a date, and then I pulled a muscle in my back, and I couldn't sit at my computer for more than 10 minutes in a day. So I really couldn't make the deadline, and it really, really made me angry. So I thought, I'm not doing another deadline for it. I'm not going to promise anything.
Well, I mean, in this community, deadlines are meant to be broken. That's why we keep saying 2090.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think deadlines should be kept. I'm not. If I go out and do a job and say when that's going to be finished by, I'll say I'll have finished that by Friday. And if it's Saturday, they don't want to pay me. So I want to do it. The modding's got to go that way as well for me.
And anyway, just out of curiosity, what is the most time-consuming part of working on Dwemer Rebirth? Is it the puzzle creation, scripting, dungeon design, or the new asset creation?
Thinking. I think that's the biggest problem. I have no imagination whatsoever. Everything I do has to be based on something that is real and tangible. It has to work with the laws of physics. If it doesn't, I could never do anything to do with mages or fantasy or spells because I just can't think of any. It doesn't work for me. So thinking is a major deal. When I changed over and wanted to use Darknuts tile set, I thought, right, I'm just going to make it completely Darknuts tile set. I want to use that set because it's so good. The hard part was getting things to fit in with it. Like when I made elevators, I wanted tile set parts that fit to a Darknuts set, not just a square box. So things like that take time and effort and thought, and maths, unfortunately.
Oh yes, I can imagine, though I will say that you do have some pretty creative designs in Dwemer Rebirth, like those elevator things that you have, like with the gears that just shoot you upwards, or some of your puzzle designs are also pretty interesting.
They're probably things I saw years ago on the Amiga, and it's still in my head. I used to write a lot of stuff on the Amiga. I did it professionally, 89 to about 92. Did a lot of work for a company called Ocean Software, which are based here, and some other people like Bitmap Brothers, if anybody remembers the Amiga, and some others, Team 17, etc.
Oh, interesting. So these are, concepts you've had for a while then?
Well, either that, or I've pinched them from old games. But when when in the old days, like on the Spectrum and the Amiga and the old Amstrad, you'd say, "Oh, I'd love it if we could do X, Y, Z on this," but you just couldn't because the computers couldn't do it. They couldn't handle it. They couldn't display things. They didn't have enough colours sometimes. So now it's nice to be able to get on a PC and just abuse it, really. Just abuse anything you want to do, you can pretty much do.
Oh yeah, and that is one of the nice things about modding, though. Of course, Morrowind modding is perhaps a bit more limited than Skyrim or Oblivion, but thanks to MWC, perhaps not so much anymore.
I don't think there is a limit. I think you can abuse the engine as it is, the vanilla engine. I think you can abuse vanilla scripting. It does take a lot more thinking. I mean, everybody hates that. Everybody hates the script editor. Everybody hates the construction set. But if you've got the patience, you can actually produce some really good stuff with it, I suppose. As many have.
Well, I wouldn't say I hate the CS. I actually kind of prefer it to the creation kit for Oblivion and Skyrim. But that's just me anyway.
Well, I tried the Skyrim one. I wasn't keen on that. My son works on he's still doing it. I know he's nearly 30 now. He works on a Skyrim mod or two with some friends of his, and he wanted me to make some assets for him and whatnot. And I tried getting into it, and I absolutely hated it. I just couldn't get my head around it, and I didn't want to learn something new. I thought my head's full of junk as it is. I didn't want to add some more junk into it. So I just gave up and just supplied the assets.
Oh yeah, I mean, why do they have to change everything anyway, They should just keep things the same. But anyway, sort of getting back on topic, unless I'm mistaken, the new assets in the Dwemer Rebirth project, those are modded resources other modders can use, right? So someone else could potentially use those assets in their own mods?
All assets that I release, I put on the internet, to be used as resources if they want it. All I'm saying, somebody uses it, gives a mention. I mean, gold, jewels, women, things like that would be a plus, but, a quick note in the credits is also good enough.
Alright, that was about what I was thinking. So, would you like to see some more mods out there that use Dwemer Rebirth assets?
There are a few already, and it's nice to get. I get asked, which is nice. But it's not that I get asked for a lot of assets that I put on there. I've even been asked to make a Sims model I did into an if, which I did for somebody. I don't know whatever happened to that, or whether they made a mod, but interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of potential with the Dwemer Rebirth assets. Again, going from 12 assets to 600 is sort of a big leap, and I imagine there is a lot of potential there for any modders who might be willing to check it out.
I would have liked my original view on it, all of it, the Dwemer Rebirth, was I secretly hoped that I could just sit and make assets and give the odd idea, and someone like Transmaster who just loves the CS could have used them. You just use them, mate. You use my assets and make the Dwemer Rebirth project, and that wasn't to be. I did ask him, and he was like, "Wow, no, I've got way too much on as it is. I'll leave it with you." So that's the way it was left.
Oh yes, and Sort of on a similar topic, a while back, I think a couple of years ago, you released a Skyrim-style Dwemer Dungeon kit as a Mars resource as well. Any plans to flesh that out a bit? You know, I believe it was an interior complete kit, just, you know, missing some exterior components.
I can't even remember what was in it. Did they use it in Shotton? I don't know. I've seen it somewhere. I have no plans to flesh it out now. It was missing too much. I downloaded it when we did the MMM after looking at the Dwemer bits and pieces and realising they didn't have any. And when I went to clip it together in the CS, I was just completely lost. I couldn't remember where I was up to with it or anything. So, you know, it would have stayed on my hard drive if it wasn't for Transmaster, to be honest with you. Again, I'd shown it him, and he said, "Why don't you release it as a resource?" I thought, "Yeah, all right." So I just slapped it on Nexus, thinking, you know, if anybody wants it, use it. Other than that, there was no collision with it. The UVs were awful. It was just purely a concept for something to run through. It was no the reason for making it.
Oh yes, but I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was a pretty good dungeon romp actually, if you played it in game.
Well, that's just it. You see, I never did. I just made it to see if it was possible to make something in Morrowind that was similar to Skyrim. As I say, it was just a concept. It was no intention of being a modder at all, ever.
Well, that is it's surprising, because obviously your dungeons are pretty fun and enjoyable to experience. So obviously you've got a talent at making them.
Well, thank you. I don't know if I have. I think it's just dead simple. You just clip things together, don't you? I used to play a lot of, as I say, the old Amiga stuff like Black Crypt and Captive and things like that. And they're all pretty much the same, traps and pulls and the way dungeons twist round to the start again and things like that. They're all pretty much the same.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess, but, you know, the way you've nailed the atmosphere and, well, you know, part of the fun in exploring a dungeon is to just explore these detailed environments, and you've really hit that, I think, on the head.
Well, I tried to improve the detail because, like I said, the original vanilla ruins have no detail whatsoever. They've got a lamp and a bucket in the corner or something. And I'm sort of thinking, well, an entire civilization is supposed to have lived in these pretty much vacuum sealed places that everything's made of metal, so it won't have faded away. And yet they have nothing. Where is it? Where's it all gone? That isn't how an advanced civilization would live. That's if we all died out, we wouldn't leave a bucket and an iron bed frame. We would leave a lot more than that behind for people to see. So how can they just leave that? And it needed that extra detail and then extra things, pots, pans, standard everyday stuff that just was completely missing.
Oh yeah, and that kind of, you know, gets to one of the other issues I had with the Dwemer ruins in Vanilla Morrowind, is that they were awfully small to be cities. I mean, you're talking about some of these ruins only had one bedroom. It's like, okay, how is this a city again?
Yeah, that's another thing. I actually used a couple of people on Discord. They don't know it, but I used them for the lore because I've no interest in the lore at all. I've no interest in any of that sort of fantasy stuff. As I say, it's got to be factual for me, or I'm not interested. So I use them to let me know, and then they're sort of saying, well, you know, this particular ruin, how many people are supposed to live there? 4, 5? And I say, no, hundreds. And I say, well, with that bed and the bucket, and that hundreds live there? Whew. Better do something about it, really.
Oh yes, I think there was this one example that really just blew my mind, because there's a ruin in the Grayslands, right? It has a book about it, and the book is actually found in the ruin, and it talks about the people who lived there and these great battles they fought, and it's like, this is a really small city. How could they even field an army? What are they doing?
Yeah, that's I can't remember which one that is now. Next left, is it? Next left? I think that's the one you're talking about. I don't understand. I don't understand where what Bethesda was thinking when they come up with ruins. They come up with the story of the Dwemer, and then they come up with these, like you say, little tiny ruins. Then you have to either make the story fit the ruins or the ruins fit the story, and they didn't do either. They just released it as it was.
And, that was kind of a problem with the vanilla Dwemer ruins as well, is that there were no really epic interiors for the Dwemer ruins, except maybe for Orkenthand. That was the only one that had any real sense of epic scale to it. The rest of them were very small, very compact, and they just didn't have any of that, epic, exciting stuff that you'd expect to find. Like, that one Velothi tomb that you'll run into on the Azura's coast somewhere. And that was really exciting to find, but, none of the Dwemer ruins are like that.
Yeah, I know the term you mean, actually. But I fell in that the last playthrough. I'd forgotten it. I'd even forgotten it was there. I think I'd only ever been in it once in 20 years, almost. Is it 16 years? And yeah, it was really enjoyable to go into it, and also the fact that Trance has added all sorts of monsters to it and stuff, which made it even better. But like you say, the Dwemer Ruin is nothing. You go in there and it's like, there's a Steam Centurion I can kill in 3 hits, and a spider that I can kick out of my way. And that's all you get in the Dwemer Ruins. It's as though they've been Arkenthand, and they thought, well, this is the only one anyone's going to go in, so we'll make this one okay-ish, and the rest will just rush and get it over with.
Oh yeah, and I did kind of have to give them a break. I mean, Morrowind was built with basically a 10-man team, I think it was. They didn't have a whole lot of people working on it. And so obviously that meant they had to cut a few corners. And of course, Bethesda was on the verge of bankruptcy when Morrowind was being developed, so it's kind of a miracle they even got it out at all.
I'm not too sure about that. I mean, if I'd have been at Bethesda at the time and they'd shown me the Dwemer Ruins, I just would have, sat back, gone home, and added some more models to it for a start. They must have been taking too long, messing about. They're messing about, that's what it is, messing about.
Well, that's Bethesda for you. They're always kind of messing about, I guess.
Yeah, bloody useless, really, most of the time. It just so happens that they stumble on something with Morrowind that everyone forgives all the problems that they create.
Well, I mean, it's Morrowind. It holds a special place in, many people's hearts.
Oh, it does indeed. For me, it's I can just close my eyes and I can think of all the times that I've played it, and it's not only that, you start thinking about things that was going on while you was playing it in your life, and you can just relate them to certain times in Morrowind. I love it for that.
Oh yeah, and that, I mean, it is, partially nostalgia, I guess, but, there is just something about Morrowind.
Yeah, it's certainly not vanilla graphics, I can tell you that. The gameplay, they got the gameplay right. There's very few games that have got gameplay right, and there are a lot of games out there, but very few that make a break on that and get it as right as they did.
Oh yeah, which is, kind of funny when you can, compare it to some of the these newer Steam players, for example, who think the gameplay in Morrowind is just utterly broken.
Well, it is broken, but it adds to it, because it doesn't matter where it's broke. There's other parts where it works, and you can ignore the broken parts, which is great. I mean, not most games you can't ignore the broken parts and carry on, but you can with Morrowind, and Skyrim, I suppose, to a degree.
Oh yes, and one could even say that Morrowind encourages, breaking the game a little bit with all these crazy, spell and alchemy systems that just totally encourage you to just make something really crazy and just break the game a bit that way.
Yeah, well, you can do. It brings me back to The Sims, actually. This is something that I liked about Bethesda, is that they've released this game that needs patching. It needs everything fixing, but they haven't bothered. They're just like, nah, let the community do it, and the community has done it, and it's done it very well for a very long time. Whereas The Sims, anything's broken in The Sims, never mind, here's another add-on that you have to buy. So Bethesda, they have a special place in my heart for the fact that they didn't do it that way. They made it very easy for modders to get on with it and have a good time doing it themselves.
Oh yeah, I mean, we do give Bethesda a lot of crap, but at least they're not going the EA route with The Sims. I mean, what is it? Are they on Sims 4 now? It's kind of ridiculous, the amount they're charging for some of these packs.
Yeah, Sims 4, and a lot of them are like 30, 40 pounds. I don't know what that is in dollars. $50 possibly. A time, and you need 10 of them, maybe more, to do anything.
Well, it goes back to that sense of pride and accomplishment. I mean, whenever you spend a bunch of money on an EA game, you just feel accomplished, after all. But we've sort of gotten off topic, and, well, getting back to our list of questions here. Obviously, you've mentioned Morrowind Rebirth a lot in this interview already, and the name, Dwemer Rebirth sort of implies that the project is inherently, compatible with Morrowind Rebirth. Do you know if there's any plans to eventually merge Dwemer Rebirth with a Transmaster's Morrowind Rebirth mod, or is Dwemer Rebirth going to, continue being a separate but compatible project?
Trans and I have talked about this at great length, and we decided that it was better to leave it on its own, because I wanted to release it as a one chunk, if you like, with all the ruins in it, and also I wanted to release the ruins as separates, just in case. I mean, you might play a particular mod. There's one out there, Rise House Telvanni, I think it is, where a couple of dungeons are used, and they're not compatible, and they're completely not compatible. But the beauty is, you can just, if you're using separate dungeons, you can just untick them and go in and carry on with your other mod. But if you release it with Rebirth, it's going to cause all sorts of problems. So we're going to keep them separate. Definitely going to keep them separate.
Oh yeah, and I kind of like that idea, your way of doing it, keeping it separate from Morrowind Rebirth, but also having a single download for people who want that, and separate downloads for each dungeon for those who are concerned about compatibility. And, that is something that people have mentioned a lot, that they wish Morrowind Rebirth did, have the city overhauls, separately, and all this other stuff separately, instead of having it all in just this single package, which is the only way, really, that Transmaster presents Morrowind Rebirth.
We've talked about this too. He started changing his archives. He had it all confusing. He'd been doing it for a long time, just adding things, and nothing was organised. And we talked about it, and he started changing his archives now. He's improving on the organisation in the background. Nobody can see it, but trust me, it's a lot better the way he's doing it. Maybe one day you could get into, I don't know. We'll have to see in the future. I'll have to chat with him about that, because I think that's a good way to go for his future updates. Is to say, you can have this update, I've changed such a thing, or you can not have this update. The choice is yours.
Oh yeah, I think that's the biggest complaint with Morrowind Rebirth, is the fact that it is not modular. There is no modular option. And, if he ever agrees to do an interview, we can always just hammer him about that on here,
Well, he has agreed to do one. Trust me, he keeps telling me he's going to do one. Every day I speak to him, I say the same thing. I say, morning, mate, buy a mic. He's just too lazy to go and get a mic. He will not buy one. He's got no problem with doing an interview. He just hasn't got round to buying a mic. Simple as that.
Yeah, I remember, 3 years ago, he told me that, oh, yeah, I'm going to be buying a mic next month, maybe we can do the interview then, and it's a month later, it's so, hey, you got that mic yet? And it's oh, no, but I'll get to it eventually, and it's a year later, oh, no, it's still going on.
I'll actually, if you can, I might even send him one. I mean, I'm not sure, he might have a webcam, I'm gonna I'm going to ask him. I'm going to try and drop him in it because if he's got a webcam, he'll be able to do the interview because he'll have a mic on it. Because I'm using a webcam right now to do this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I told him that, though, that every laptop, every cell phone has a mic in it, and actually you can download TeamSpeak onto a cell phone and just use that as an interview device, but I don't know, he's never got back to me about that.
He's bloody lazy, that's what it is, mate. He's lazy. He'll start something and he'll just go, right, I'm going to disappear now for a little while. And he sort of has fits and spurts where he'll go, yeah, I'm going to do this. And he'll just work and work and work on it and do it. And then he won't do anything for a week or 2 weeks and you won't hear nothing from him. And he'll pop up again. And he's just mad the way he works. But it works for him.
Oh yeah, I can kind of get that. I disappear sometimes myself, but, that's us introverts, that's what we do.
And funny enough, you just said that, and guess who dinged me on Discord? Trance.
Oh, did he buy a mic?
I've just typed in the words buy a mic, so we'll have to see.
Oh, well, that is... I'm looking forward to hear his response. Maybe he actually did it for once. Oh yes, getting on to our next question here. Given that the Dwemer Rebirth project aims to overhaul the Dwemer Ruins of Morrowind, will it, eventually conflict with Darknut's Grey Dwemer Ruins? Or do you plan to avoid the areas already covered by Darknut?
Well, it's another good one. Darknut and I have talked about this again at quite length, and we come to a decision. Very simple. Anything inside Ghostgate is his, anything outside is mine. We've agreed that we can share any assets we make and parts of tile sets, etc., so we get some kind of continuity, that sort of thing. We're just waiting for Darknut to do his thing, really. It started, and then he stopped and started and stopped. He's a bit like Trance, he just fits and spurts in it. Whereas I grab hold of something like a dog with a bone, so I get frustrated with other people. That's generally why I work on my own. But yeah, it's going to be cool. Everything's going to not conflict.
Oh, well, that sounds pretty great. That's a pretty nice level of cooperation you've got going there.
Yeah, well, he's actually... Don't tell him, but he's one of my favourite people in the community. Don't tell him. Got to keep that quiet. Don't want him to get a big head.
Oh, yes. I mean, after all, we're just doing an interview that'll be publicly aired. I mean, no one will find out.
Exactly, yeah. Fingers crossed nobody's going to listen to it anyway, so it's okay.
And moving on to this next question here, which I'm pretty sure I know the answer to already, since you said you were going to be mum about the whole release thing. So when do you think you'll be finished with the Dwemer Rebirth project, and will be finished by 2090, do you think?
Well, I can tell you what will be finished by 2090, and that's me. I'm planning on the complete thing early next year. We'll be done, all of it. It depends, because there's this guy, you see, you might know him, he keeps holding these competitions for like summer seasons and marathons and things, and it really gets in the way, you know?
What? No, I haven't heard of this fellow. Who is this strange person?
Well, yeah, that's the guy who's like holds me up half the time, so, it's down to him when it's being released, you see, not me. So if it is 2090, I'm just going to blame him.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to encourage and motivate the community. Excuse me if I'm trying to introduce a little fun.
Well, yeah, but, if you're going to introduce fun and ask questions of when we're going to release things, everybody who's going to release anything puts it back a little for the fun.
Well, I hardly see how that's my fault. And, speaking of, any plans to participate again in this year's Morrowind Modding Madness?
Absolutely. Last week, Danny asked me if I wanted to join her and Merlord in a team. Which will be unusual to be in a team, but yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to join them. Definitely.
Oh yeah, that's kind of an unusual team right there. You got Merlord, an immersion mod too with Frostwind, Danae, who is still working on House mod that she started in 2008, and then of course you.
Well, hopefully we've got the full thing. I mean, I did say to Danny, I said, yeah, I'm up for joining as long as I don't have to think again this year. I don't want to do any thinking. If someone says, yeah, make this, I'll run off and make it and add the odd bit of input. I said, but that's the way I want to look at it. Merlord, another guy I speak to quite a bit, I've got a lot of time for. He's got some great ideas, he's a good scripter. I'm sure they'll come up with something. Danny, a bit of a dark horse. Hopefully she's got some great ideas. She had some good ideas last time I met the team she was in. But they didn't have an asset maker, which I think retarded their entries because of the lack of the asset maker.
No, yeah, I mean, they still came in second place, though arguably I'm not sure if an asset maker would have done much difference with the sort of dream team of Greatness, Seven, and Melkor.
Yeah, I think it would. I really do. I really think it would. I think they need some other variants on out there. There was gluing things together, and a lot of people are about what you see. Which the first challenge was proof. It's about what you see and not what you do.
Now, are you suggesting that the fact that Caldera Mine Expanded was just this epic vista, is that the reason why they won the first round?
No, it was very good. I'm not bitchy. I don't get bitchy. No, it was just it was an eye candy type of thing, and a lot of people go for that. It is if you only have to look on Nexus and you look at the most downloaded things, and it's all like texture replacers and robes and land replacers and replaces and replaces and replaces. Anything that improves what you're looking at seems to be very, very popular.
Oh yeah, definitely, and at least, Caldera Mine Expanded wasn't just another replace, it was actually a bit more than that as far as the visual overhaul goes. And I do kind of wish that they would do some more, just modders in general would do some more sort of unique landscapes sort of, overhauls with graphically improving the actual terrain a bit.
Yeah, I did like Caldera Mine, because obviously Caldera is my favourite town, and it was nice to see the mine having something done to it, making it more interesting. And it's just a shame they didn't have more time, because I think they could have made an even better job of it if they'd have had more time on it. I mean, Melkor, he loves it, doesn't he? He loves that CS, he loves messing about in it. He really cheers me up. I really like that guy.
Oh yes, obviously I think everyone likes Melkor, and obviously if you've seen Lithonia, gosh, the landscapes there are just breathtakingly beautiful.
Yeah, I have actually. I did a quick run-round playtest for that. I actually made one of the interiors for that as well, and I believe I sent him some mushrooms and some other things. I don't know, some assets. I don't know, no idea.
Well, since we're already on the topic anyway, you are currently working on a complete overhaul of Caldera, completely, apparently, transforming the city. Care to talk about that for a bit?
Of course I do, it's like a new book release. Yeah. What do you want to know?
Well, I guess everything. What is it? What all is it going to do? Is it going to overhaul the interiors, the exteriors? Is there going to be any new content for it? Is it mostly just a visual overhaul? So on and so forth.
No, it's going to be complete. I started it by dragging a big square around Caldera, highlighting everything and pressing the delete key. That's how it all started, and ended up with this blank piece of land, which I then flattened, and took a look at the sort of size of it and realised that you could do a lot more with it. And I wanted the feel of a medieval town rather than, because you're going to use Watland Daub, you're going to use medieval buildings, you're going to use medieval stuff. Might as well make a medieval town out of it, but still with a Morrowindy feel. So yeah, all the buildings are gone, they're all going to be replaced, and every building will be a unique building. All the assets will be remade and be new. I think I've used about 3 things that exist. One of them's a lamp, another one's a fern. So, it's not really going to be using anything that comes with Morrowind. It's all going to be new stuff. The interior set, it's going to have a complete new interior set. It's going to have complete new furniture. Everything's going to be new. But Bert is going to be making some of those, and I am as well. He's also going to be scripting the NPCs to have schedules. Going to be adding a couple of other things. A guild for once. We're going to be adding a guild, so there'll be another faction being added. Want to add quests to random people there because there's just not enough to do in Caldera, so we want to make it so there is something to do in Caldera. We also discussed a house that you can build from the ground upwards, that would eventually become either player house if they wanted it, I suppose, in Caldera. But you'd be able to build it yourself, go and get the materials, blah, blah, blah. It's a bit like a Stronghold idea, but a bit more in depth, a bit more Skyrim-y, rather than Morrowindy.
Oh wow, that sounds like a really ambitious project, and obviously a lot of stuff that I really like the sound of. New faction, new quests, a player home that you build, that is stuff I love to find in mods. And are you planning to keep it as a sort of similar scale to the original Caldera? I think the original Caldera was, 20 buildings or something? Or are you planning to expand it a bit?
Well, it's already got, I think, 30 buildings. But yeah, they're all in the same cell, the same cells as Caldera's original footprint.
Oh wow, that is, again, really impressive. That is already larger than any city in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, so wow, that is impressive, especially again that you're going to apparently do a unique model for each building?
Yeah, I already have. I'm still adding them. As I say, I did about 30 different building models. Some of them I've dumped, some of them I've kept. I usually, when I do something like this to this scale, I usually end up with a folder full of stuff that I don't use. And probably next year or something, I'll just say, anyone want this? And I'll bang it on Nexus. That's usually what happens.
Oh yes, I've seen some of your independent model releases on the Nexus before, and I'm just curious, where did this obsession with Caldera come from? I mean, you went from working on the Dwemer Rebirth project to working on this, seemingly out of the blue.
Actually, it's not. I wanted to overhaul Caldera 15 years ago, maybe. I never got round to it. I kept looking at it, and then I lost the plot with the Dwemer Rebirth. I got bored of it. Basically, I was like, oh, I've run out of ideas, but I still want to do something. So I thought, I'll keep another project at the side of it that when I get bored, I can bounce off one to the other. But the reason behind Caldera mainly is because it looks like where I grew up, and that's how I want it to feel. I know how that feels walking through a town like that, and I want it to have that feeling.
Oh yes, it kind of touches upon my next question here, because I was going to ask, if there was something particular about Caldera that draws you to modding this particular city. I mean, you have made a small overhaul mod for Caldera back in the day. I think it was around 2012. I can't quite remember the name of it though.
I'm not sure which one you mean. I think it might have been Ring of Return. I made that for my wife. It was something else that was never supposed to be released, but I just released it anyway, just in case anyone else wanted it. But she used it. It was tailored to her. The last house mod I made, the one, the Lalu Vaults, that was for her. That was tailored to her requirements. None of it was for release. It's just watching her play things like that. I thought I might as well release them anyway, But Caldera always has been, always will be my favourite town, and it's just not busy enough, there's not enough going on, and it's very sad that most people hate the place. I want to change that.
Oh yes, it was Ring of Return, that was the one I meant, and I'm actually not aware that there was a lot of hate for Caldera. I always thought it was a pretty nice looking town to sort of go through.
Maybe it's just my son then. Every time I mention Caldera, he just says, why? People only go to Balmora, nobody wants to go to Caldera, it's horrible.
Actually, Balmora is the city I kind of hate because it's very plain. I mean, I don't really like the architecture there. I don't really like how, sort of bland it is. If I were to, pick a favourite settlement, it would probably be Voss or Dagenfell, or someplace a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I don't like Balmora. That it just so happens that everything you need to do for the main quest is sort of revolves around it. So people tend to go there.
Well, sort of on another similar note then, do you plan to do other overhauls for some of the other, towns and villages of Morrowind? Like, I don't know, maybe Plesiad?
Nice pronunciation. Well, this project wasn't just going to be me. It's going to be Bad Luck Bert as well, jumping in there. And actually, you'd sent me these questions beforehand, and I've excluded Bad Luck Bert in my answers because he wasn't available. Unfortunately, he took a job on to write an app, and so I left me there. Really, it's not his fault. He got to get paid for things. But yesterday, he popped up and said, "Right, I've finished the app. It's gone into testing. What we're doing on Caldera." So we're back on track. If enough people like Caldera, then we are definitely going to turn our hand to Plesiad. That's the plan anyway.
Well, anyway, so you were thinking sort of the same thing, like a more sort of like urbanized medieval village?
Yeah, something like that. With like the winding streets that are close together. I always like that look. It makes you feel it's homey. It's nice. It's warm. I like that. But yeah, medieval feel rather than this. It's just like houses plopped on the ground somewhere in the vanilla, and I don't like it. And what's the Nord houses doing there? What's all that about? What's these one-story Nord houses doing there? Nobody lived in one-story houses. That's just a fallacy.
Oh yes, plus those medieval villages have a lot of verticality too. So there's that.
But the medieval type house was built on average 3 stories high. That was the average, because and you probably know because of your history, but over here the landlord used to charge you for the footprint area of your house. So people used to make them as small as possible, the footprint, and then just go as high as possible. So there was no little 1-story hovels where one person lived. It was always like a family of 9 or 10 living in them, and that's how it should be. That's how it should look.
But anyway, is there any other sort of town or village that you're thinking of overhauling besides Plesiad? I mean, obviously it's the only other real example of a medieval town, unless you count Ebonhart.
I was counting Dagenfell is definitely one of them. That don't feel Nordish at all. It does feel they could do a better job of the Nord buildings, I reckon, as well. I don't even know what they are. Like I said, they're just hovels, and I can't see that being the way it is. But one of the major things that really annoys me about the buildings in Morrowind is they don't match the area. I can expand on this. If you travel around England, if you go from south to north, east to west, wherever you land, you'll see a castle. We've got hundreds of castles, and we've got hundreds and thousands of old houses. And you look at these houses, you can look at one that's built pretty much the same down south as it is up north, and yet everything will be completely different. The bricks will be local the stone is local. It's not. We've not used the same stone. We didn't have one great big stone manufacturer in the middle of the country where we all dipped in and used that stone. It's what's available around the corner. Whereas in Morrowind, one settlement, if it has the same political leader as another settlement, then they have exactly the same stuff. That doesn't work like that.
Oh yes, I remember this rant that you had on Discord, and I guess it's really not something I had thought of before, but it does sort of make sense. I mean, each region does already have, like, its own particular stone type. I mean, that's why there's all these different types of caves, right? So you got, the mud caves, the pyrock caves, all those, which are unique to, usually certain regions, but the buildings obviously don't match those same rock types.
Well, no, I mean, I noticed as I was doing Caldera, looking at the rock and thinking, what kind of brickwork should the buildings have? And it should have something that looks like it's been quarried from around Caldera, rather than just some, brick. It's actually brick. If you look at the vanilla stuff, who makes this brick? Where's this brick come from? And why is it in Caldera, and why is it in Dagenfell, and you find the same stuff in Heavenar? How can this be? How can it possibly be? What a lot of rubbish.
Well, obviously, they ship it from the Imperial City, first by carriage and then by boat.
Yeah. And then by Guar, and then, yeah. So that must be the only place they've got a brick furnace then, obviously. As the wife just said, they teleport all the bricks through the Mages Guild.
Oh yeah, that could work. I mean, obviously transportation costs would be a lot less if you could just teleport things.
Well, I wish I could do that. Trust me, I wish I could do that in real life. That would save a lot of trouble and effort.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so you were saying about Dagenfell. So any particular plans for Dagenfell? I mean, it's a pretty small fishing village. I'm not entirely sure what all you could do with it.
Yeah, it's a small fishing village, but who does the fishing? There's like one rod there. That's not exactly a fishing village, is it?
Oh, I mean, they've got a docks. I think there might be a rowboat or something.
Well, they must eat a lot of guar then, because they can't be eating too much fish, to be honest with you, with one fishing rod and a rowboat. So that's not what I would call a fishing village. So it needs to be made into a fishing village. And it's a good stop. It's somewhere everybody has to go, so it needs to be a bit more detailed, a bit more interesting. That'd be cool.
Well, obviously they just use mages to just teleport the fish onto land. Obviously.
I was waiting for that one. Yeah, I knew you was going to come up with something. Yeah, you really didn't like that feudal age comment, did you?
Well, I'm just saying, if we're going to use mages for the transportation system, we may as well use them for fishing.
Well, in that case, we wouldn't need any type of village. No, the thing that gets me the most, I mean, I say I'm not into immersion. I'm into facts and physics and what's real and what's not real. But on the other hand, when I look at stuff in Morrowind, one of the biggest things that really annoys me is the amount of candles in Morrowind. And I often think, where the hell do these come from? When I see stuff that's produced a lot, I think, where do these come from? There's nowhere that makes this. There's nowhere that cuts this. There's nowhere that, and they need to be in it. If you want immersion, they've got to be in it. The Caldera Candle Company will be making an appearance, by the way.
Oh, so clearly you're not going to go with the whole, the mages just teleport the candles in from somewhere else then story, eh?
Well, there's only a certain limit we can blame the mages for. And I think transporting candles might be a bit too much. I think they're too busy with the fish and the bricks.
Ah, yes, I guess they probably are. So, yeah, I've seen that you mentioned a Caldera Candle Company before, and I guess it's going to have somewhat realistic, tools or what have you for making wax candles.
Conveniently, the wife used to have a candle making company, so I'm well up for it, and I'm well into the idea and know what needs to be added. So I'm pretty buzzed about that. I want to get into that as soon as I can.
Oh yes, and well, sort of moving back to Dwemer Rebirth. Once the Dwemer Rebirth project is finished, do you have any plans to tackle any of the other dungeon types from Morrowind, like the Daedric Ruins, which is perhaps the most notable example of a dungeon type that hasn't really gotten much attention in the modding community?
Yes, the Daedric Ruins have a similar problem to what the Dwemer Ruins had, which is very, very few assets. Again, I looked at that when you did the piratey type one, the ocean challenge for the MMN. We looked at the Daedric Ruins, and they had very, very few assets. Now again, I didn't have the time to work to remake them, so it was put on the back burner. I would like to get rid of them and then produce something completely different from what we have now. Because again, I don't know where that stone comes from, and the mages can't be involved in that, surely. They have to go. And I think if I ever do get around to it, I'm going to have to draft somebody like Enclave Killer and use him as an advisor, because he's twisted. So he was completely perfect for them. Absolutely twisted. What a man.
Oh, well, that is certainly a strange compliment to make about another modder, though he is a bit on the dark side, I suppose.
Yeah, I think he'd actually take that as a complete compliment, saying he was twisted. Yeah, I think he'd be pleased about that. Yeah, I think before I even looked at them, one of the things I do want to do, and I have talked about this with Trance as well, was replace the castle set with some kind of Norman style castles, rather than the big green Lego blocks, which seem to be what Morrowind is made of. And give it sort of a stone feel, as though the stone has been quarried locally, and this is a castle, this is a real castle, this is what castles have. I mean, where I live, we have castles. I know what castles look like. Bethesda, I don't think know what castles look like. They've probably seen a photograph. But I used to play in them as a child, so yeah, I know what castles are. I know what they should have. I know what they look like. And I know what they're made out of, and I think we should change that set. I think the castle set needs completely replacing and bringing forward again into the modern age, let's say.
Oh yes, there hasn't been that many attempts, I think, at overhauling castles in the modding community, other than, texture places. I think it was Spiccorny and Centurion had some pretty interesting, independent castle designs that they made, but I don't think those were overhauls.
Well, I don't want to do an overhaul of the castles. I want to do a replacement. I just want to get rid of the old ones and bang some new ones in there. Trance was talking about Ebonheart needs doing in Rebirth. He said it really needs redoing. It's not how he wanted it. It's not how his vision was of it. And he talked about this, I think, 2 nights ago. And I said, well, I intend in the future to replace the castles anyway and all the models for it. You might as well wait for that, and we can come up with something together where it would look like a town inside a castle, which I've got a few in mind here, which are actually here that I've been to. But yeah, that's the way I want to go.
Oh yeah, you keep saying you just want to completely replace all these different things. I get the feeling you just want to take all of Morrowind, just drag a square over it in the CS, and then just hit delete.
Yeah, that fairly sums up my feeling about it. Yeah, it does, yeah.
Just replace the castles, just replace the Daedric Ruins, just replace the medieval villages. Is there anything you're not planning to replace in the future?
Yeah, the Telvanni. I mean, I'd like to delete those, not replace them. But that's my opinion.
So not a fan of the Telvanni then. That's actually kind of unusual for the modding community.
I know. I was very surprised at how many people liked them. I just found it frustrating from day one. It was like running around these mushrooms, or trying to run around these mushrooms, or navigate through them. They all look the same, and I couldn't move through the tunnels, and I kept getting stuck on walls. They just annoyed me. So I came out of the mushroom and thought, I'm never going back in one of them stupid mushrooms again. that's just the way I felt about it.
Ah, well, sort of getting back to the castles and the Daedric ruins, do you have any idea when you might be starting these projects? Is it going to be like sometime in the next couple of years?
Knowing me, I'll probably just start them next time I get bored of something and want to have a side project. I like to run several projects at the same time, which keeps me interested in everything across the board, if you like. It's not just getting sick and tired of doing one thing and then giving up. It's get sick and tired and then move on to the next project. Get sick and tired of that, and eventually you get back to the first project and you end up doing them all.
Ah, well, right, and, finally moving on to some of our more general modding questions, do you do any planning before you start a mod, or do you just start, pumping out assets?
No, I do a ridiculous amount of planning, at least, 5 or 6 minutes. If it's a storyline, I don't get involved at all. So that is a good example. My son just goes home and writes it all and emails it me, and I just follow on from there. No, I don't like to plan things. I like to just think, yeah, that'd be good, and then I'll go and make one.
Have you been influenced by any non-Elder Scrolls games when you mod? And I think, given that you have mentioned, what was it, the Amiga before, I guess that's a yes?
Yeah, one of the games that influenced me is Age of Empires, and a few other games before the PC broke onto the market. Black Crypt, Captive, even Gauntlet. Lots of these sort of things influence the way I feel about everything, really.
Yeah, a lot of those old games ended up getting ported to the PC and to newer consoles like in the 90s, which is how I got integrated to a lot of them.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them, and not all of them are good. They're a bit like movie remakes. Is a good example. Most of them are absolutely terrible, and the other one's not bad, but most of them are awful. Some of the fan-based remakes that you find on the internet are probably better than the companies that have taken over certain things. Populous is a very, very good example. Peter Molyneux, a Bullfrog at the time, I think it was, made Populous, and then he remade it for the console and the PC, and it was horrible. It was just not that same old strategy beat 'em up feel thing they had going on. It was just 3D and awful.
Yeah, I have a hard time trusting Molyneux these days.
Yeah, I used to know Peter back in the day, and we used to go to what's something you don't do now, which is called it was an Amiga party basically, whereas everybody took their Amiga to somebody's house. You'd have like a sleepover with the beer and the other random things. And you'd all be sat up all night copying each other's games and playing on the Amiga and just talking computers. It was like a nerds and geeks paradise. It was fun back then, like 90s, very early 90s, late 80s. It was great fun.
Yeah, wow, and you actually met Peter Molyneux at these things?
Yeah, he came to one or two, and there was several other people. I can't remember the names now, but they used to come because at the time it was a case of people sat in the bedroom writing games on their own. You didn't have a team of 2 million people pumping out a game over 5 years. It was some bloke in a bedroom in 6 months' time, and he's another one of that is a good example who I still know, and he still lives within walking distance of my home. Is the guy who wrote Bubble Bobble. You might have remembered that, and Rainbow Islands and the other stuff. He was another one who used to go to these things.
Oh, wow, that all does, sound a lot different from today, with the huge media promotions for games and all that, and the big conferences that are thousands of miles away.
Well, yeah, there's no such thing as a conference. You and your mate wrote a game, and you took it to a software company, and they looked at it, and they simply told you if it was crap or if it was good. And if it was good, they would pay you for it. If it was crap, you just ran away with your tail between your legs, thinking, "Oh, back to the drawing board."
Well, it really is kind of hard to imagine that nowadays. So I guess Steam is kind of a free-for-all now. I mean, people vote with their wallets, and you have all these crazy indie gamers just releasing whatever they want on the platform.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them. I mean, it's like, was it Llama Simulator or Goat Simulator? I saw that, and I just couldn't stop laughing. And then this Goat Simulator. And there's so many other indie games on there. I mean, because when you get bored, I mean, sometimes you go on Steam and you just click on free games or indie games, cheapos. I have a look around, see what there is. And I spend most of my time laughing at the titles. And then you read a little bit about them, or you see a video and you think, oh, that's cool imagination. It's just a shame that it's so different now. Like I say, in the early mid-80s, there wasn't many programmers. Greatness 7 would have been a god back then if you knew what you knew now. Nobody did any programming. I was lucky. I did a Z80 at that time and could write stuff. But not many people could, so you got a little bit famous. It was a bit like being a pop star.
Oh yeah, and of course, Greatness 7 is, well, still kind of a god amongst our little community as well.
Oh, I'd say he's definitely the go-to guy. He's definitely the go-to guy. When you've tried everything and you just can't see something, he's the guy. You've got to message and say, mate, how do you do this? I've forgotten, or I don't know, or is it possible? And he always comes up with an answer. He really is a good guy. He's one of the people in the background who makes everything tick, I think.
Oh yes, I mean he is the MVP. I mean he's always helping out with the modathon and things. He probably helped out with maybe 20 or 30 of the mods that got submitted. Who knows?
Yeah, I know he's helped out with a lot of people. Definitely. He helps out Transmaster as well in Rebirth with some scripts and some other stuff. So yeah, I know he's been in the background there. And he just keeps nice and quiet, and he must like it that way. So let's leave him that way.
Oh yes, and well, sort of getting back to our list of topics here. Have you been inspired by any modders in the community, or been influenced by them in some way? Like I don't know, perhaps Greatness 7 again.
G7 I'd never heard of until we entered the NNN, like days before. I'd never actually heard of him. As I say, I'd never really gone into mods, never really downloaded anybody else's stuff. I just sat in the background doing my own thing and making assets. I made lots and lots of assets for lots of mods before I ever released anything myself. Back to the question though, Transmaster definitely inspired me in a large amount. He took on a massive project, stuck with it for years, and it's just his tenacity. It's just enough to inspire anyone. For me, it's more about modders' personality rather than the end product, though. Melko always cheers me up. He always seems happy, and that inspires me as well. If you can have a hobby and be happy about it, then it's fantastic. I like to see younger modders get involved as well. That inspires me when I see. If you see somebody who's never played Morrowind and they've been playing on Steam or Oblivion, and they've heard of Morrowind and they've gone back in time, install Morrowind, and all of a sudden got the bug, and then they start modding for it. It means there isn't an end of the tunnel. So it provides inspiration. It's not like saying you're the last of the modders, and when you die it'll all be over. It doesn't feel like that when you see all the new people coming back into it, so it gives you a little bit more inspiration. Enclave Killer is one of those. Loads of time for him. So many a convention. It's just, I think all the community is the inspiration in itself.
Oh yeah, and it is, really nice to see all those younger modders, like again, Enclave Killer. I mean, he's probably one of the youngest in our batch, but he is by no means the absolute youngest. I think I've seen 16-year-olds who mod Morrowind, like on the Nexus.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. I think more encouraging than inspiring. It's more encouraging, yeah, to know that these guys are going, oh wow, found this really cool game, and then they realise it's the same age as they are. I find that quite ironic and quite funny, to be honest, as well.
Oh yeah, and I don't know if I've actually had one of those moments myself. Some of the games that would be as old as me might be, well, not the first Sonic. I don't know. It's like I was born in 1989. I can't even think of anything. Well, anyway, just moving on to our next question. How do you keep yourself motivated when modding?
I struggle. I really do struggle. I have to do something that I'm interested in to be motivated. Caldera is a good example. Again, I don't need any motivation because I already love the architecture. I love that period. I already grew up in places that look like that. So I don't really need to be motivated for that. The community is probably the biggest help with motivation. If you post something you've made or a screenshot of something and they go, yeah, that's cool, that when it's going to release, blah blah blah, that makes you feel motivated. It makes you think, oh god, I'll do this for them. If for nobody else, just for that one single person there, I'll do it for them because they liked it. And that motivates me tremendously.
Oh yeah, I think that's a pretty similar response to a lot of what other people have mentioned before, and that is one of the nice things about Discord, is that it does allow for, getting some immediate feedback on, things like posting your progress on a mod, though I do have my doubts about some of the other less than positive aspects of Discord, but that is one of the good things it's there for.
Yeah, Discord is absolutely fantastic. I'd never been on Discord or even heard of it until your MMM forum post, and it said, "Oh, go to the Discord." So I went to the Discord and I found it, and now I have it on Startup. So and I've had it every day since then. Even if sometimes I might just say good morning, and sometimes just pop in and say good night. But it's still great to have in the background, to have there. To bounce ideas off people and get that inspiration and motivation, etc. It's just awesome, really.
Well, I guess just moving on to our next topic then, if you could make a single change to the capabilities of the construction set, what would it be?
That's the easiest question I've ever been asked. It would be the landscape editor. It just feels like it was written in 1990. In fact, I was writing landscape editors for the Amiga that were better than that one in the CS. So yeah, I would definitely change the landscape editor. It's awful.
Yeah, it is a bit difficult to use. I mean, especially if you're creating a new island, it is just awful. You have to raise up the terrain, and then most of the time you have to turn on the flattening thing in order to create the terrain and make it big enough flat circle to work with. But then molding it, it takes so much time.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. I mean, I did something to the Amiga, wrote a little program to the Amiga years ago. They just built the land for you. You put in parameters, he built the land for you. And then threw all the trees down where you wanted them and blah, blah, blah. Why couldn't you have done that?
Oh, wow, that would be so much easier. I mean, geez, that would just... I would finally be able to make an actual landmass mod if it was like that.
Teleport a G7 in, that's what we need. Teleport one of them in, get him to rewrite the landscape editor. And I think that would probably be the biggest download ever on Nexus if somebody wrote it. So it's like, right, here's a landscape editor, there you go.
Well, I mean, if we could teleport G7, I'd finally be able to force him to do a modding interview. But, of course, we can't. Yet, anyway.
Well, that's such a shame. I mean, I'd actually like to put a face to the name as well. Not only that, and a voice to the names that are always good. I've heard very few people, and seen even less. And it's strange when you speak to somebody every single day. You don't know what they look like or sound like. It's odd.
Well, you always say that because you're an old person. I mean, us, younger people, we're used to that. We just assume that, it's whatever voice we have in our head.
Yeah, now the wife's laughing. Thank you very much. You're an old person. Yeah. She's just laughing here now, giggling her tits off now at me being old. Thanks, mate. Yeah. No, it's just strange. If you was going to work every day with someone and you couldn't see what they looked like, they were wearing a balaclava and they were speaking through just by typing, you wouldn't be very happy. And it's just strange. I like to see what people look like, and I like to know what I'm dealing with,
I don't know. I think maybe this might be a generational difference because, I kind of grew up with foreign boards. I'm used to not being able to see or hear the person I'm talking to.
I like to look in their eyes when I kill them. I mean, when I speak to them.
Oh, well, that went dark all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Enclave Killer then. That's what did it. I just read his name and that was enough.
Yeah, I really need to play Enclave Killer's new mod. What was it? The Forgotten? I haven't quite gotten around to it yet.
No, I haven't. I mean, I got to see what he was doing. That's the other thing about Discord. You feel as though you've played after them because you get to see them. If you're on every day, you get to see people's, this is my asset, this is what I'm making, this is what I've done, and then they talk about it, and you get a feel for what it is. And I got a feel for Frostwind just by talking to Merlot. I knew what he was doing, and I could see how people would love it. And that's the great thing about the community and Discord itself.
Oh yeah, that is, one of the positive things about Discord, being able to see all the progress made, especially, with the province mods, like just hopping on over to Project Tamriel, see what's going on in Skyrim and Cyrodiil today. That's a lot of fun.
The Cyrodiil one, I keep meaning to have a look at that. I've never seen it, and yet I released that house thing the other day, that leftover model, and somebody said, you want to get in contact with Cyrodiil team because they use that kind of model. So I'd never even heard of them up until that point.
Oh, well, that is kind of surprising. They're one of our largest province mods.
I've just not heard of it. I mean, there's so much going on. I'm quite stuck in my own little world, in my own little Morrowind world, where the other stuff is around about me, but I can't see it. And that's the way it is. Until someone says, "Can you do this for me?" I don't really get involved in them. Somebody's project is their project. That's it. And that's the way I look at it.
Ah, well, I can definitely sort of understand that. And, well, we just have a few more questions here to get to. So are there any skills that you've learned from modding? And if so, have you been able to use those skills anywhere else?
Well, as you keep mentioning my age, I'm at that point now where I forget more than I learn in a day. And most of the skills you learn while you're modding are no use whatsoever anywhere else, unfortunately. I mean, if you learn to use the CS, well, it's only ever going to be useful for modding Morrowind. You're never going to be able to use it in life. You're never going to use it for anything else. I think writing quests is something that could be useful to other people. Not to me, because I can't do it. I'm bloody hopeless at it. But I see Drunken Mudcrab. He's very good at writing quests, and he could take that and use it for something useful. He could write a book, for instance. But other than that, I don't think there's any skills when you're modding, apart from learning how to program or learning how to use an art program or learning how to use certain software. No, not really.
Well, to be honest, that was sort of what I was expecting. Not that I was, thinking of your age specifically, but, well.
Well, if modding helps you swing an hammer or use a trowel, yeah, it'd be useful, but unfortunately for me, it doesn't. It's a complete different world for me. What I do during the day and what I do as a hobby are two different things. They're not connected at all. My work doesn't involve a computer in the slightest. So it's the skills you pick up modding are just no use to me at all.
Ah, well, that makes sense. And do you have a mod that hasn't received enough, acclaim as you think it should have? And if so, which one and why?
Not really a mod. One that I really, really liked, and I'm really excited about, but personal reasons, again, I just liked it, was a potion replacer I did. I thought that was cool. Well, obviously not. But I liked it, and I still like it, and I still use it, and I don't care if nobody else does. But yeah, that's the one, if any.
Yeah, right. That was the Alabaster Potion Replacer. I think we showcased it.
Yeah, you did indeed. I just liked it. It was fun to do, to be honest with you. It was another thing I wanted to replace for years. And it was fun. I enjoyed doing it, and that's probably part of it. Actually, I really, really enjoyed making it.
Oh yeah, I imagine there are a lot of potion replacers out there, so there's a lot of competition. But I did think it was a pretty quality potion replacer to begin with.
Yeah, well, there are a lot. I just wanted something completely different, and I thought putting in. I was actually playing Rebirth at one point, and there was a potion I had to look for in this dungeon. I could not find it, and to be honest with you, that was down to my crappy eyesight because of the colours. So I thought, right, if that was white, I'd be able to see that. So I just replaced them with white ones, and ended up then alabaster potions.
Going on to this next question, you've kind of already answered it a bit during this rather long interview. What mods and modders currently have your attention in the community?
It wasn't that long. Melkor, right? Melkor. He keeps dropping in with stuff, and everything he does, he's always pretty good. He's very arty. He kind of half promised me a sign as well for Caldera. So, with a bit of luck, he's going to do that for me. Hopefully. Fingers crossed, if he hears me. Murlord is another one. He's got my attention. I want to know what he's doing, because he's got some great ideas. And Matt, he's got a crazy name. What is it? Matt W something or other. He does for Open Morrowind. He's doing some funky stuff. I always keep my eye on him. He doesn't know it, but I do. And Matthew 2100, I think he is. He's a new guy, but he reminds me of how I was. He really wants to learn, and he really wants to get things done. I'm not sure what he's released to any great extent, but I know he always seems to be working on something or other, and that's what I like to see.
Yeah, right. He goes by the name That Dwemer Guy on Nexus, and I think he's mostly actually just released, I think it's joke mods and Blimden mods.
Yeah, it's not what he's released, it's what he's talked about releasing, and his ideas. He's got imagination, so I imagine when he gets the skills that you're never going to use anywhere else, he will probably pop out some good stuff, I think. And he's one to watch. He is. He's one to watch. I'd put a bet on him.
Oh yeah, and I think he's one of the younger modders as well, though I don't actually know what his age is.
No, I've no idea. I've chatted with him a few times. I didn't know he was that Dwemer guy on Nexus, actually. But now I do. Thank you. I'll keep an eye on him for that, because I was looking for his name, because I knew he said he would release some stuff, and I couldn't find it. But I was looking for him. I was looking for Matthew. And not that Dwemer guy. So I'll have to have a look for that.
But anyway, getting back on topic, are there any mods you look at and think, I wish I made that?
Yes, Underground. Awesome mod. Steve did a fantastic job. It was a bit of a nutter. God rest his soul, if you believe in God. But that fits in great with my sense of humour. I thought the mod was just brilliant. The Underground's got to be the best mod ever released for Morrowind.
I will say that it is probably one of my favourite quest mods. I mean, just from a technical standpoint and atmosphere standpoint, some of the things he accomplished in that were pretty crazy.
Well, if you think about what the mod is, and the amount of scripting that went into it. I mean, it was broke in places. I mean, there was workarounds, but it was still unbelievable. It was, for the time, brilliant, and it still is brilliant. And there's plenty of fixed versions. I've got my own fixed version on my PC right now, and I have played it in the last 12 months. I've replayed it again. It's just fantastic. It's just a shame that he left us so early.
Oh yeah, that was definitely one of the great tragedies in the community, and it was rather sudden, as I recall.
Yeah. Sort of sudden, yeah. I think it was his mother who posted. God, this was a long time ago. His mother posted on a forum he went on. He knew Canadian Ice as well, I think, and Hound Dog, and she posted on a forum and said what it was all about. That was a long time ago, though.
Oh yeah, I think he died it was either 2011 or 2012, but it was a while ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2011. He passed away similar time to my father, so I didn't really keep up with what was going on in Morrowind at the time. I had my own thing going on. But yeah, I think it was about 2011. Yeah, the end of it. Oh my God, we're getting really dark. Get back on these questions.
Okay, so speaking of something a bit more cheerful, we've finally gotten our final questions here. What do you think about the other Elder Scrolls games like Oblivion, Skyrim, and the Elder Scrolls Online?
Right, I'll surprise you again. I've only played Morrowind and Skyrim. Oblivion, I saw it. It looked tacky. Didn't like the view of it. It started to look as though it was going towards Skyrim. No, I generally didn't play anything apart from Skyrim. I don't really like RPGs. There's only Morrowind really that's floated my boat ever in the RPG sort of area. I do have Skyrim. I played it to death when it was released because my son bought it me for a Christmas present. He sent it me on Steam. But it felt like I was playing it on a console. It took them so long to write the game, and the trailer was really, really good. Every time I seen the trailer, I thought, that's really good. I hope it's cool. And they lost everything in Skyrim that Morrowind had, or has. And they made it too hard for modders to do anything about. And that's why there's a million titty mods on Nexus and not a million quest mods, because they made it too difficult.
Yeah, that is one of my biggest complaints with the Skyrim modding community is there's just not a whole lot of content mods, or at least not a whole lot of content mods that seem to get onto hot files. It's always the same sort of gratuitous nudity mods that always end up there at the top of the Nexus page.
Well, you can call them gratuitous nudity. I just call them titty mods. And yeah, that's all it seems to be doing now. Even the asset creators are just making, well, bigger assets, let's say, every time. I mean, it spoils the game. It just, but people download it. They like it, and it's something the Morrowind community has never really lent towards, which is a good thing.
Yeah, we've never quite had the same obsession here in the Morrowind modding community. I think, there was a brief period, like in 2003 and 2004, there were some of those kind of strange, gratuitous mods. I think there was, one of them was on the Adventurers website that probably no one remembers. But, yeah, for the most part, I think our community is a lot more mature than the Skyrim modding community.
Well, speaking from my end, I'd say yes, mature was probably a good word. Yeah, I'm in the area of once you've seen one, you've seen them all. So it doesn't matter how big or small you make them, or what kind of shape you make them; they're all the same. So I don't want to see 100 mods showing me different shapes and sizes of what my companion can have. And after all, if you find pixels sexy, then it's that's your problem. Go and sort it out yourself. But I'd suggest if you do, go to the pub and get yourself a woman.
Is that the traditional mating ritual over there in the UK? Just go to the pub?
Well, it's like beer and a kebab. I mean, that's definitely a mating call, isn't it? It's got to be 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, do you want a kebab, love? Is the traditional British mating call. But you've got to have had at least 12 pints of strong lager before you do that. Otherwise, the women are just not interested.
Wow, just so many fascinating things we're learning about British culture in today's interview.
Well, this is what I'm here for. You know, this is why I came. It was to help people realise that Britain is not just for Christmas.
Was Britain only for Christmas before? I don't understand.
No, you probably don't. I've just realised that as I picked up my cup of tea. Yes, it is Earl Grey, and yes, it is hot, and that's as nerdy as I get. No, it was from a commercial years ago. People still say it, and they still refer to it because it was about people giving puppies at Christmas and then leaving them on the streets like months later when they got too big. So it was a puppy's not just for Christmas, and that was a reference to it, and it didn't work because you're not British and you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yes, it did sort of confuse me there for a second. I thought maybe you were talking about maybe some sort of pagan rituals that were adopted or something.
Well, it could be. I mean, we are the only place in the world that has druids, so yeah, that's it could be that. Yeah, Britain is not just for druids. There you go.
Well, that does make more sense, saying it like that. But anyway, getting back on topic, what do you think makes the Morrowind modding community so vibrant after more than 15 years?
New ideas. Beauty of fantasy, mate. You can do what you want. New ideas. Limits. I keep taking my finger off the control button here. I'm talking. I'm using my hands. The new idea is really limited by your imagination. So, you know, you can pretty much do what you want. So each mod that comes out can be it's new, it's exciting, it's different. Like we've just said now in Skyrim, what makes Skyrim so bad to us is they're all the same. They're all titty mods. Every single one of them is a titty mod. They are bigger, smaller. You know, she's prettier, she's shorter, she's taller. That's the only difference they have, is what kind of woman you're going to use as your companion. Whereas in Morrowind, they're vastly different. And you've got people like Noel Castade bringing out more of a, I call him utility mods. He's because he's a coder, isn't he? And then you've got people bringing textures out, you know, completely different textures, and you've got different assets. You've got quest mods. There's so many things you can do, and so many lines you can follow. I don't know. It's just so inventive, Morrowind, that you can keep it going forever, I think.
Oh yes, and you know, speaking of, just taking a look at the Morrowind Nexus page right now, we've got such a variety of different mods, like on top of Hot Files right now. We've got a quests mod, we've got graphics mods, we've got new gameplay elements, immersion mods, and of course Null Cascades tweaks. And that is just so much more variety than really the Skyrim or Oblivion modding communities.
That was the actual word I was looking for that I couldn't think of, which was variety. Everybody who goes on Discord is writing something new, and then you've got all the people who don't go on Discord. And if you don't, I suggest that you do. Everything's something different. Nobody's typing, I've got this idea. Nobody says, oh, I thought of that. You know, we're not all doing the same thing, which keeps it going. It just keeps it alive, and we're all interested in each other's stuff, what we're doing. It's not just a case of, oh, he's writing that, and then nobody's interested. Everyone's interested in each other's projects and little modding doofers, and it just keeps it all alive. We're just going to keep going and going and going and going.
Oh yeah, and there's always, a lot of massive projects being worked on as well, which is nice. And apparently, there's enough massive projects for someone to not realize that there's a Cyrodiil modding team.
Well, too busy, you see. Too busy, mate. If you've got a million massive projects on yourself, the last thing you want to do is have a look at another massive project. I mean, I called in Dwemer Rebirth at that time, and I spent an entire week with them going through the concepts of the dress. I didn't do a damn thing on anything else. And I thought, right, I'm not doing that again. I'm just avoiding these places. These are scary. It stops me doing what I want to do. So, unless they ask, I'm going to sit in the background and keep quiet.
Oh yes, I suppose they do have a way of just sucking you in.
Yeah, well, Dwemer Rebirth did. Because I really, really liked Nomi. And Nithrend as well. Nithrend I thought was very good, very impressive, a lot of determination. Those two, the guys I dealt with more than any, and I thought they were great, both of them. So yeah, it did make me want to go back.
Now, we are kind of coming to the last 3 questions here, and, well, I'm kind of curious. Do you think there's anything the Morrowind modding community should be doing in order to continue to expand and grow in the coming years?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think there is a. It's not what they can do. There's a problem with it. The entire modding community. They're just too quiet. Way too quiet. 90% of them just remind me of the stereotypical nerd, which has come to light really for me and proved it with World Cup being on. I expected everybody to be going, yay, the World Cup's gone, we're all excited, this is going to be cool. And nobody's mentioned it, So I'm like, wait, what's going on here? This is like a major deal. And everyone's like, well, I can just see like the entire community lined up at school hoping not to be picked for the team because they'd rather be doing a maths class, and sport is stupid. Great bunch of guys, but they're just, they're so, most of them are so introvert that I think that damages the expansion of the community. Being too quiet, it just stops it getting out there. It needs to be all loud and say, look at this, everybody, you got to look at this, come and do this, come and help us, come and join in. But everyone's like, oh well, I'll just sit in the background here and be really, really quiet and hope nobody notices me and they go away.
Oh yes, I mean, modders, I do think, Morrowind modders have this issue of not really promoting their mods enough. I've mentioned this countless times in these interviews and podcasts, that we have all these community resources. We have the Discord, we have the Reddit, we have the Steam forums that, again, everyone forgets about, that you can promote your mods on and reach a wider audience, but no one does. They're, as you say, quiet, and, well, that means we don't get as many new players playing these mods and potentially getting addicted to modding themselves as we should.
Exactly, that's exactly what I want to see the modders. Some of them are absolutely fantastic, and they're just really, really just so introverted about it. They need a marketing manager, a lot of them, you don't gain anything out of it. You're not getting any fame. You're not getting any money. But you're gaining other people joining in with what you love, and that I think is important.
So, are you going to volunteer to be the community's cheerleader and manager?
No, definitely not. I'm just gonna shout down my own trumpet as much as I can. Always have, always will. And then bugger everybody else if they can't be bothered. Then more look out for them. But I think you should. I mean, Melkor, get off your ass, do something. That sort of thing. He needs to get out there. He needs to get his own. Transaz, he does mod DB. He's got all sorts of stuff going on there. It's out there. He even gets it reviewed in magazines. Everybody should be doing that, and it really encourages people back into Morrowind, and that's what we need. We don't have to wait for Bethesda to release another bad version of Morrowind to encourage people to come back to Morrowind. That's not how it should be. We should be doing that ourselves. I think we can.
Well, you think Melkor isn't doing enough? He's got the best marketing team, arguably, of any of the modders on Discord, almost.
That's exactly why I'm shouting. Come on, Melkor, help me out here. You know, give me some assistance. You know, let's get the other guys out there. Let's get them with the blogs and let's get them with the websites. Let's get them with the, you know, posting on Reddit and instead of just being quiet.
Oh yes, I mean a banner or something from Melkor, or just reposting something on his Tumblr blog will definitely help with getting a lot of attention. I mean, it's almost crazy how effective his marketing is.
Yeah, I know, I know the feeling. I've been trying to do the marketing for a lot of people on my own blog. I like I put your videos on my blog. Believe it or not, that gets a lot of views. I didn't think it would when I started, but it does get a hell of a lot of views. And I put all these things on there and talk about them, and you know, and other people need to do the same. Let's get the stuff out there.
Oh yeah, and this has reminded me that I have not updated my website or my WordPress blog in quite a while. I used to try and have all the videos on there, but it's fallen behind.
Yeah, I know. I've linked to one of them on my blog. I don't know which one it is. I've got a link on there anyway to your one of your things because you've got so many. Like you're okay at PRs. You know you got millions of them. I've got one of Melkor's on there. I've got London Rocks on there. But I don't see the other guys having stuff. And if we all shared our links and got them out there, it might help.
Well, let's see. You know, I don't know if like personal blogs is a thing that people do so much anymore. Star Wars Gal 9875 has one. Superstar has one. You have one, obviously. Melkor has one. I have one, and Scamp has one too. So that's what, 6 or 7?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I just like them because they're easy. You know, I used to actually have a website called RubberMan's Morrowind, and I just let it go. I just didn't continue paying for it basically, and it left me years ago.
Oh yeah, that is the thing, you know, maintaining them, and I have my own website, which I still pay hosting on every month, but it's it's easy to forget these things.
Yeah, a lot of it was when, as I say, when my father passed away. I just let everything go pear shaped. Really, I just stopped with everything and you know, like it is. Things happen, don't they? And then you've got to try and pick them up where you left off, and that's so hard work.
Oh yeah, that's pretty understandable. And well, is there any advice that you'd like to give to budding new Morrowind modders out there looking to release their first mod, which perhaps has to deal with promotion again?
I wasn't going to go for promotion, but I'd say do it. Even if it's crap, do it anyway. And if it's crap, you'll get advice. If it's good, you get motivated to do better. Join Discord, speak to the old existing modders, and when not sure, and never give up.
Oh yes, I think that last bit is especially important, you know, never give up. I mean, a lot of modders, they do give up, like on their first mod. They'll either attempt something too ambitious, get burnt out, or they'll just get frustrated with some of the construction set tools and give up before really, you know, getting a chance to get addicted to modding.
Yeah, it's very sad. I mean, it's understandable. Construction set is bloody awful. So yeah, it's understandable for anybody in the younger generation, especially who's not been used to horrible editors. They come to that, and it's very easy to make you give up. I've closed it hundreds of times. I've just gone, right, that's enough. Closed it. I walked away, got to the pub or something, and just given up. But only for that day. I always come back to it. I always come back.
Oh yes, I think it's, you know, like the same thing with writing or creative writing. You know, they say you should do it every day, or programming for that matter, which they say you should do every day, and that's important, you know, just to keep going at it.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I was talking to Bert earlier. I said at the moment what I'm trying to do is do at least one model per day for Caldera. Because I was waiting for him to come back and finish his app before I run away with it, and then it was just too far for him to join back in again. So I thought, yeah, I'll just do one model a day and leave it at that until he comes back. And now he's back. might get a bit silly. But yeah, doing a bit every day is better than doing it a 12-hour. If you do 12 hours at once, you'll just burn yourself out, and you just get irritated and annoyed with the construction set, and your brain loses a plot, especially if you're scripting or writing quests, and you just gotta walk away sometimes and then come back later.
Well, definitely good advice. And finally, is there anyone in the community you'd like to give a shout out to? I mean, you've already practically given a shout out to everyone already.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mean somebody I haven't already mentioned, or just want me to catch me out on my name pronunciation? No, not really. There are a few people in there that I do like, and I do think deserve saying hello to, which is like Corsair, awesome, because I can say his name, and Karis, I have no idea how you say that. And that's about it, really. I mean, there's plenty of other people that I like, but Drunken Mudcrab, he needs to be mentioned, because I think he's possibly, apart from Bert, my favourite character on the Discord. He's a nutter. He's brilliant.
I like how you just used the term character as like a replacement. You didn't use something that was overtly positive, you just used character, sort of a neutral term there.
Yeah, well, I was trying not to use an overly British term or an overly sweary British term. So I the only word I could think of at the time was character, and he is a character. He is a character on Discord, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. But you've got to take the good with the bad. Same with modding. Take the good with the bad, and learn from it. So yeah, I like him. I think it's cool.
Well, alright, I think that's all the questions I have for you, so I guess that's pretty much it. Thanks again for agreeing to do this interview.
Not a problem, mate. Enjoyed it.
And that pretty much wraps up everything for today's interview. We'll be back next time, I think, with... Actually, I don't know who. We don't actually have anyone scheduled for next time. It could be Transmaster, it could be Greatness 7, it could be... well, anyone, really. So, stay tuned for a random potential interview, and I'll see you all next time.